Today we have Mark Saladona and also Kevin Romine, who is our product manager for Wilflex Inks. We're going to go over some specialty inks today. We're going to go through a kind of rapid fire here, but then we're going to settle in on another presentation where Mark's going to break down the setups and the specialties. Mark, just want you to give a little history to your resume if you can. Don't have to be too exact or too precise, but we know you've been around a while. So go ahead.
I quit counting the years when it hit 40. So longer than that. But yeah, I've been around quite a while, in screen printing my whole life. And it's been, oddly enough, it's been pretty incredible. It's an awesome industry. And, I've learned a ton and, lately been teaching a lot of people. But it's still exciting, even after all this time. It's always changing, especially like you guys, the ink's changing. I've had the opportunities of working with some fantastic print shops and again, also with Wilflex. And it's been great. And I think right now, given our current climate in the industry, special effects are going to hit another peak out of the valley. They seem to go up and down, and they're getting more and more popular. So, thanks for having me on. I think this is a great thing to, maybe reintroduce some of these techniques to people and show them what they can do to stand out from the crowd, especially now,
Well, we appreciate you being on, and we're going to hopefully folks can learn from here. I see a special effect going very well, and Mark, I know you. Over time, you've created a lot of special effects and,
Sure.
Unique ones. And sometimes you plan for them, sometimes you don't.
A lot of times you don't.
Is there any special thing you do when you like hit a snag and you just want to kind of come up with a special effect on your own?
What I've always done, let me start with this oddly enough, for inspiration, is going out and looking at textures, looking at things, whether it's industrial or nature, and, how do you replicate that? How do you make hammered metal? That'd be really cool on a shirt, for a certain application. And a lot of it was, is customer driven. But the one thing I learned years ago was walk away. When you're struggling on press and you can't get it, walk away, think about it, come back. A lot of the printers nowadays, they have Facebook, they have social media. They can reach out to like you guys and so many other people in the industry. Whereas 30 years ago, there was nobody to talk to. You had to kind of figure it out. But a lot of what I do is I kind of look at it and kind of backtrack. And usually, the first thing you look at might not be the answer. But, with screen printing, there's not one variable. You have 10, 15 different variables to get ink onto the shirt, whether it's off contact, squeegee angles, and pressures. A lot of times when something didn't work and you're using a triple hydrometer, go to a single, go to a softer squeegee. And just a lot of that just comes with, hate to use the word failing on press, but fail and learn from it.
Well, I found a lot of the special effects we backed into by failing on something we're trying to hit, and it's like a happy accident. So we hear that in painting, but sometimes you get something and say, "Oh, well, I'm going to hang on to that." I mean, so I think the number one thing to do is document what you're doing, no matter if you're missing the mark on what you're aiming for. Document what you're doing and hang on to that.
Ray, that's the best thing. That's the best 30 seconds you'll get out of today is document. Write it down. How many times, from when I owned my own shop and the shops that I ran, and you get a repeat order and it doesn't look like the sample shirt because nothing was written down.
Right.
And especially with special effects printing, you got to write it down. You got to document it, because what if, Todd or Carl, whoever was printing it that day, isn't there, or isn't it there any longer? Right. Especially not even on press. And, being ink guys, you understand this perfectly. If you're mixing sculpture base, you're doing suede, you're using Rio, or you're using pigment or other finished inks, write your percentages down. go by weight, don't go by eye.
Right. Good advice. Good advice. One thing that we've been offering this packet for a while. We call it Infinite Effects. And it's based on an idea that was influenced by a few people in the industry. You know, at Brannigan, you at Wilflex. It's like sometimes you just get on a press and you get your bases together and you experiment, overlaying each other, mixing them together, and so on. So I think, Kevin, you have that presentation on another thing on the Infinite Effects. We could take a look at that.
No, absolutely, Ray. And I think this is a good lead in. So Infinite Effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over a quick overview of what special effects are available. And we'll hand it back over to Mark to really kind of give some specific examples of how to use these things. And then with the advice of writing this stuff down as perfect advice, because at the end of this, you'll learn a couple of special effects on how to do like a faux leather and maybe some special techniques that Mark will share. And we have all these instructions written down, so you'll be able to take away, maybe able to do it yourself. But anyways, with the Infinite Effects, we've categorized these in a couple different categories. One, you have glitters, shimmers, and liquids, really to give you the sparkles, and they're different particle sizes of your metallic flakes. The glitters being the largest particle size, and then the shimmers, and then the liquids are a flat leafing particle size that give you a really wet liquid look. And then we have a number of clears that will give you different effects, and Mark will go in on some of those. And when we switch over to bases, that's where it really gets interesting with Infinite Effects. And we separate them out into three different categories: soft bases, medium textures, and then hard bases. And with Infinite Effects, really the name of it describes unlimited possibilities you can do with these, with either using the base by itself, or combination of bases, or intermixing these bases at different ratios, and coming up with those ratios are important, and Mark will share on that. But we do make this easy. Have a kit available with some of the most popular special effects. So to get started, it's creativity is really the unlimiting factor.
It's infinite.
So it is infinite. So I think we should pass it back over to Mark, but and we'll go through a couple of specific examples. It really answers the question, what's new, and excites your customers, and if you get good with it, you can start charging maybe some premium price points and separate yourself out from the competition.
One more thing I got to add, because I know one of the selling points of this is you're doing it at your shop. You make it. You wrote it down. You're the only person that knows how that's done. Like, so if they came and asked me or Kevin, how is this effect done? We'll say, I can only guess at it. You need to come up with your own effect, because the guy down the street won't be able to replicate that if you come up with an effect that's quite different.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Ray. I mean, there's so many shops I worked in and customers I've worked with where we've came up with some of those happy accidents that ended up being fantastic, and a customer loved them, luckily documented it down. And I've talked to many other screen printers who've seen those prints, and it's comic because they're like, oh, this is exactly how it does. And you kind of sit there with that little grin going, no.
I've been there.
But hey, it sets you apart if you can do the stuff,
So Mark's going to actually let us know how he did a few things. We had to pry it out of him. So here we go.
Well, There's always that 10% factor that you don't include.
I understand. So here we got a foil technique, Mark.
This is really small on my screen here. Okay. I need the up close glasses. Can't see the big monitor, but I can see the little one now. What this is, and the print sequence is there. One of my favorite inks, and one of the other industry gurus out there, lawn winners, will back me up on this. HD Clear is amazing. You can do so much with HD Clear. Here we used it, to hold foil as a foil adhesive, and it's a high density, 250 micron first down, which is a solid, but it's also got 10% liquid gold in it. And using, a metallic like liquid gold, into the HD or even into your foil adhesive under foil is a good little cheat, because if you lose a couple pieces of foil, you don't notice it because the liquid gold is coming through. We printed that, flashed it, and then did the next screen, which has that distressed kind of pattern or gold nugget kind of pattern to it. Again, with HD Clear and liquid gold and the 250 micron stencil. Then what we did was, this has foil done post, printing. So it wasn't done in line. So we printed it, went through the dryer, and then on the heat press used one of those, I'm going to call it like a foam pad or pillow. Put the shirt on, then put the foil on, then heat pressed it. And the pillow, allowed it to kind of flatten underneath. So the foil went down around the edges and gave it kind of that, gold nugget type of look to it.
And what Mark is talking about is that, that brown kind of, it's a kind of like yoga mat in a way.
Yeah.
It's got a foam spongy thing that's on a lot of the machines already. You can buy that either from a lot of times from the transfer manufacturers or from store where it just kind of gives as you're pressing the heat on. Correct.
This is kind of a gilded metal type of look. Again, it's HD Clear too, through a thick stencil. Well, actually a 400 micron. It was print flash print. And then it's kind of like tethered or torn scraps of foil that are put on, post curing after the dryer, and then put onto the heat press, and using just aluminum foil and crinkling the aluminum foil up and flattening it out, then heat pressing it. You get all those dimensions and wrinkles from the foil, then heat pressed into the HD Clear. They give it kind of a gilded, hammered, type of look. A lot of these people are like, oh, what's an extra step? Well, if you're heat pressing it, it's not really that much of an extra step to put the foil on. And, when it comes to this type of printing, you charge a premium for it. You get the extra dollars for the extra time and effort put into it. And then that's where it comes into selling it to your customer.
I love this one.
Yeah, it's cool. I like the stitch.
Dude, this is from 2004. So what's that, 16? Yeah, 16 years? No.
Still translate.
2002 or two. Yeah, it's old. I really like the bases themselves and use them in combination. And like this one here, there's a lot of bases in it with Fashion Soft base and Sculpture base, Cork base, New Puff base. And what it is again, it's using a high density stencil, whether you're using, direct emulsion or using capillary film. And we put the drop shadow, behind it is Fashion Soft base. So it's real soft, real muted. You don't really feel it. Then the cream kind of color is going to be Sculpture base and Cork base mixed together at a 50% ratio. Then adding the tan to it through a 200 micron stencil. Now, people will say, well, why do you use Sculpture and Cork? Well, Cork is kind of exciting in its way. It looks like cork, feels like it. It has the blowing agent in it. It expands and it gives you that real soft feel. Whereas Sculpture base, is you're going to use for high density. It's going to hold a straight edge. It's going to be clean, but it's not as soft. So mixing them is a good way to cheat to get better height with not as thick of a stencil, because you have the sculpture base, which is going to hold the ink together and keep it straight. And the cork is going to allow it to expand and still have that real soft, pliable feel to it. And this shirt, actually, if we look at the picture that is on here, you can see a little bit of the ink is worn off. That's actually the picture of the shirt I wear. I still wear it. And it's 16 years, so it holds up.
Well, that combination always give a nice spongy feel.
It does, yeah.
It does.
Yeah, you're not wearing a paper plate or a hubcap.
Yeah, it has memory. You dig your fingernail in it, see it for a minute,
it'll come back.
Yeah.
Yep. Then we flash it, and then the green is the same process again on top. And then we use the matte black to do little drop shadows underneath what would be the threads. And those are the little elements when you're kind of engineering your artwork, is add those little things in there. And then the white stitching is the puff. So if you look at it real quick, or actually you look at it for a while, it looks like it's embroidered and sewn onto the shirt when it's actually all printed.
One art trick I've seen on this kind of things is like someone will maybe throw a little thread, like a misstitch or a.
Oh yeah, I have lots of examples.
Yeah, it makes it look that much more realistic.
Yep. Yeah, if you tether the edge of it and incorporate your drop shadow around it, it does look like it's actually.
This is one of my favorite ones that Mark showed me in January at the Impressions Expo in Long Beach, and it was great. We displayed it. I know GSG displayed it. It's a really cool faux leather look. So Mark, take it away. It's great. Show us how it's done.
Again, this is a combination of a whole lot of different bases. So we'll start with the first one again, which is going to be Fashion Soft with 5% black pigment concentrate into it, and it has no hand. You don't feel it at all. And it was printed through a 230 mesh, and you can see on there I actually have the durometer, squeegee durometer, the pressure, the angle. Everybody can see this, correct? Okay.
Yep.
And the second is going to be the sculpture base and cork base, again mixed together, to give us that high density look and feel to it. And then the Pantone color was mixed. And if you're familiar with like Wilflex IMS, everything but say Rio, because Rio doesn't use a base, it's finished colors. But like the equalizers and the pigments, you have to mix into a base. So if you're using pigments, you mix the color with just the pigment, don't add any base. Then your base is actually going to be the specialty ones mixed together. And in the software, you can document, all of that. I don't think you have the ability to pick multiples, right? It's just one or the other.
Just one or the other, yes.
And then, how it was printed, flashed, the squeegee speed. And then we go on to the next layer, which is Fashion Soft base, which only has, 4% pigment in it. It's very transparent. And what it actually kind of does is stain the color underneath it. So when you're going through the curing process and that high density starts to cure and the cork expands, it'll pull some of the Fashion Soft into it. And it'll give you a kind of very kind of leathery stain look on top of it, not just a straight flat color. So that's one of the tricks to pulling it off. And the next one with worn leathers, you have some soft spots, some kind of hard worn spots. So we incorporate rock base on top of it. And so the cork and the sculpture give us that soft feel. Then the rock base will give it that worn kind of hard edge. Then it's finished off with using suede base for the Impressions Expo type along the bottom. So the reason I did this was to show people to get the really soft elements of the suede, you get the hard elements of the rock base, you got the velvety kind of feel of the sculpture and the cork, and the no feel of the Fashion Soft. So it kind of brings them all together. Would you want to do it in production? It's up to you, but you could do it absolutely. Then the very end, when it comes through the dryer, we just took scrap gold foil and kind of kissed it onto the hot ink to give it that little shining elements to it. And we did it on hoodies. So, you know, you got to push the envelope when you're showing people how to do it.
I thank you guys. I thank Mark. I know
Sure,
I'm in the middle of a storm here. I'm holding my breath, hoping we don't go out. But it seems like we stayed on. We made it through, and I really appreciate your time, Mark. And
yeah, any time. You know, it's I'm more than willing to share, you know, this stuff and everything I've learned and figured out over the years. And you know, now's the time. If people are a little bit slow, get that kit, do some experimenting, play around.
Yeah, this is the perfect time, isn't it? You know, so if you have access to your manual press, might as well just do this while we're a little slow. So,
thank you, Mark.
Hey, absolutely, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your weekend.